Thanks for listening to the Good Enough Wellness Podcast. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Emily.
And we're passionate about holistic wellness that real people with real lives can achieve.
We see you out there striving for perfection, but we want you to know that good enough can be good enough.
Before we get started, everything we talk about in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Always talk to your healthcare provider before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, medication, or supplements. You're listening to episode 35, 1000 Hours Outside. In this episode, we are going to chat about the program called 1000 Hours Outside.
So, Kayla, what have you been nerding out about this week?
So, this week I've been nerding out about a little something called milk fat globule membrane, which sounds super appealing.
I laughed so hard when I saw this. I'm like, thank goodness there's a smart person on this podcast.
Basically, it's a compound found only in human and I think bovine milk and like raw milk. And it is like a superfood. So they've been doing like lots of tests on it, like for like all the things it can do, and it has a lot of like benefits as far as brain development and cognitive function and immune and gut health and cardiovascular health. Those are like the three big things that they're finding is like it's super helpful for. And I mean, I'm just always blown away about how incredible milk is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, doing some research on milk fat globule membrane.
I can't help but notice that you have just this great big glass of milk in front of you as we're podcasting.
Always.
I love this. We love milk.
So, Emily, what about you?
So I've been nerding out about World War I, World War II, and the time in between, and the Great Depression. We're still in the throes of homeschooling, so buckle up because we're still in History 101 here. And please understand that everything that I say when I'm musing about history is, one, I'm not a history buff by any means. I didn't major in history. And also a lot of times when I'm talking, I'm really just thinking out loud. So like anything I say is not like, I have this strong opinion about this thing. It's like, what if we explored this a little bit more? So just hang with me and don't like throw me to the wolves or anything. But I was thinking a lot about how we're, as a country, especially right now, we're really chasing this like economic upswing and this like these good times. And as you're studying history, especially like the whole 20th century, you start to realize that like these good times that we're always chasing and like, oh, like when America was really good, I can't say it. It was such a snippet of history. It was such a short time. So you have like the Roaring 20s, which was post World War I, where we won the war, so economically we were doing amazing and we were spending lots of money. We were doing lots of traveling, so other countries were doing really well because Americans were abroad spending lots of money. And that literally lasted like not even a full decade before we had economic collapse. And then you think about like the 50s and stuff and how good those were economically. Again, it was just a snippet of history. And I think it's so interesting that we keep chasing these like really small snippets of history where it's like, maybe you can't always be riding an economic high, just like you can't ride a high like anywhere else forever.
Right.
So something that I thought about a lot, because we've been talking about egg prices a lot. I think everybody's talking about egg prices a lot. And so after World War I, there was the Treaty of Versailles, which is when all of the winning countries decided, one, they pinned all of the bad things that happened on Germany, for better or for worse, even though Austria was very much part of that, but that's a whole other story. And part of, not all of it, but part of the reparations that Germany had to endure and pay back was they owed these winning countries a ton of money for basically all the resources that they had to use. I should have written down, and I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't want to misspeak, but the millions of young men who died in World War I, like, I don't know about you, but like I know a lot more about World War II. I think it's just being more recent history, I just knew more about it. I couldn't believe the numbers that I was seeing on how much money and resources and lives were lost in World War I. So Germany owed all this money, and in order to start paying back this money, they borrowed money from American and British banks, so private banks, to pay back these governments. Well, then what happened at the end of the Roaring '20s? We had a great economic collapse. The Great Depression was underway after the stock market crashed. And so these banks are like, hey, Germany, we need our money. And these countries are like, hey, you still owe us money. And suddenly, like, Germany is stuck between a rock and a very hard economic place. And these numbers are insane. A single loaf of bread went from 250 marks to 200 trillion marks.
That's some big inflation.
Almost overnight. People could not afford bread. That's when like bread lines started and you couldn't even afford it. People were burning cash as tinder, like unreal. And this is where the part where it's like, I'm just kind of thinking out loud and kind of processing through some stuff is like, we don't really know hard times.
No.
I'm not saying no American ever knows hard times. There are definitely people who are struggling, but like egg prices are crazy, right? We're all like, oh, egg prices. I'm still buying the same amount of eggs each week. I'm just spending more money on them.
Yeah.
I'm not having to choose between clothing my children and buying eggs.
Right.
This week. But I think it's just some interesting perspective to kind of chew on. And again, these are just like musings and kind of just thinking out loud. And if you want to have a conversation, I'm totally willing to have a conversation about this because I have a lot of ideas kind of just milling around in my head as we're studying this stuff. So anyways, all that to say, this is the era I'm nerding out on, and hopefully you are a little bit now too.
I've been like learning a little bit more about the economy lately, and it's like, it's shocking to me how complicated it is. Because like in my brain, it's like as simple as prices.
It's so complicated.
It's not.
And I think what really like boggles my head about the economy is like, it's a lot of like made up things.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, let's pretend. And that like, I don't know. I get the heebie-jeebies about it sometimes.
It's so complex. It's crazy.
Yes.
Hey there, Goopers. Yeah, Goopers. You guys who listen to the Good Enough Wellness podcast, that's your name now. Get used to it. Are you craving a healthier, more balanced life, but you're not sure where to start? Or maybe you've tried all the tips and tricks that seem impossible to keep up with because, well, you've got a real life. Sound familiar? Here's some good news. We've got something just for you. Our free Patreon community is all about holistic wellness that works for real people just like you. Whether you're juggling a busy schedule, navigating health challenges, or just curious about improving your digestion, sleep, or energy levels, we're here to help you thrive without the overwhelm. Inside, you'll find show notes, downloads, worksheets, and exclusive recordings to help you get started. Plus, it's not just about advice, it's about connection. You'll join a supportive group of people on the same journey, cheering each other on and sharing ideas that actually work. The best part? It's totally free to join. So why not take the first step today? Head over to patreon.com/goodenoughwellnesspodcast and join the community where wellness meets real life. Let's grow together. You've got this.
We wanted to talk about 1,000 hours outside because what kind of wellness podcast would we be if we didn't talk about 1,000 hours outside? It's no new concept at this point. I think everybody knows about it, but we're going to talk about it because I think it holds a special place in our hearts as just like this jumping off point of how to get off screens more, be in nature more grounding, more time for our brains to do the healing that they need by not being constantly stimulated. And it's helped me as a parent kind of have this permission to just be like, just go outside.
Right.
Here's a popsicle. Go outside.
Right.
And I love that about it. But we definitely wanted to talk about it. And Jenny Urich is Urich. I
think it's probably Urich.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Jenny. I've heard you say this 1,000 times and I haven't paid attention.
I've definitely.
Now that I'm looking at it written down, I'm second guessing it. But she is fantastic. She is just a wealth of wisdom when it comes to, honestly, I think parenting, but also like self-development and all these things. And I love that she was this normal mom who she had 4 little kids kind of all right in a row. And she was just trying to figure out how to survive and also enjoy her kids. And she realized through trial and error, I'm sure, that the outdoors had become this great equalizer. Like, oh, bad attitudes, outside. Oh, we're bored, outside. Oh, we're getting on each other's nerves, outside. And it healed so many things with her family that she decided that like everybody needed to know about this.
Right. I think her catalyst, if I recall correctly, was she saw a statistic that was like, on average, kids spend 1,000 hours on screens every year. And she said, what if we spent 1,000 hours outside instead? Like, not try to decrease our screen time,
Yeah.
but increase our outdoor time. And I love that perspective anyway.
Yeah, I think most people who've listened to us long enough know that that's kind of how we approach everything. It's like, it's not about what can we take away or what can we restrict. It's like, what can I add to this?
Yeah, and eventually you add so much stuff in that it crowds out the stuff that you were wanting to decrease anyway, but it just kind of has to decrease just because.
Yeah, it's a more natural process, I feel like, doing it that way. And I will say that those numbers have only gotten worse since her kids were little. I'm looking at some stats now that I wrote down that it's not good, y'all. It's not good.
It's scary.
Yeah, so there are so many reasons why you may want to spend more time in nature, but I think probably that prevalent one is screen time, and screen time is ruining us as a people, as a species, for lots of reasons that I don't think we're going to get into this time, but maybe we should eventually.
Yeah.
It's both nuanced and straightforward, I feel like. But so the average 8 to 12-year-old spends 4 to 6 hours daily on screens. And you're talking about 1,000 hours outside. Does that sound like a lot? That totals up to be 1,460 to 2,190. So like pretty easily over 2,000 hours on screens.
Insane.
In a year. So like thousands of hours outside, it's not as daunting as I think it sounds like right off the bat. And then teens, of course, are even worse. They're spending an average of 9 hours every day on screens. And that equals out to 3,285 in a year.
An average of 9 hours of screen time daily, that's more than we sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's more than most people work.
Mm-hmm.
It's baffling.
It adds up, though. Like, I understand how it happens,
Yes.
especially somebody who's homeschooling in this modern day.
Using a computer.
Yeah, we use computers for a lot because it's just an easy way to like further their education, to get them in some ways more engaged, or just me a little more hands off so they feel in control of their own education. I like that. I think there's some really great uses for them.
Oh, yeah.
But okay, now you're putting in 3-4 hours a day of school. And in school, you know, if a lot of their stuff is
most of them
computer-based,
use like Chromebooks and things like
right.
that.
So what, you're looking at like 6 hours just in school alone, and now you're coming home, you got a phone in your hand, and then you're watching a movie at night. It really, even though the numbers are baffling, I see how they add up.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It does make sense.
And I will say, I was looking for the stats on adults, and I could only find screen time for adults, and that's an average of 7 hours, 3 minutes daily for adults. And that's, I think a lot of people now, they have jobs where it's literally staring at a screen. Part of your job is you're staring at a screen.
I was just telling Emily that I'm like, I don't feel like I spend that much time on screens. But then I realized that at work, I work at part-time at a Chick-fil-A. We use screens to communicate what the orders are.
Yeah.
And so I'm spending a lot of my day looking at a screen, or we have iPads that have like projections and stuff so that we know how much food to make.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spending time looking at those iPads.
And it feels so unfair because it feels like it shouldn't count.
Yeah. I'm
You're
like,
like
I shouldn't, like, this shouldn't count against my screen time. Like, my phone should be the only thing that counts because that's what I'm doing for fun.
Yeah.
But it's like, when I'm working from home, I am working on my computer the majority of the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of screen time.
This is why we need to have a whole conversation about screens, because like obviously there's things you can do to kind of mitigate that or maybe change your perspective on it. But we're just going to concentrate on outside time because that's more fun.
Yeah.
But I did find that this is so bad. You're going to want to sit down for this. American children spend 4 to 7 minutes, not 47, 4 to 7 minutes daily in unstructured outdoor play. That's so bad.
That is,
You want to talk about mind-boggling?
yeah. I'm just like trying to equate that to something. Like that's
you-
less time than a microwave dinner.
That's how long I brush my teeth in total a day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Insane.
And I mean, you did have a good point though. When we were kind of chatting about this, you brought up that like, well, that's unstructured play.
Right.
I'm
sure there are kids who are in outdoor sports or
like Boy Scouts or
yeah,
all kinds of stuff. Or I don't know if
some
unstructured.
kind of, well, I mean, do they count structured play as like a teacher is out there like playing Simon Says, like
You're right.
or like they're going on a nature walk? Is that
I don't know.
Like I don't know.
There's definitely a
what
lot
the
more nuance to
qualifications
that.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the quantifications.
Right. But then I kind of brought up too that like I think the unstructured part is where the secret sauce
Also
is.
super important.
Yeah. Not that playing Simon Says or like having outdoor instructional time or playing soccer are bad things. That's absolutely not a bad thing. Those are great things. But I think like as far as development goes and even just like your brain healing itself through quote unquote boredom, I think the unstructured part is really like where the magic happens.
Was it the Comfort Crisis where he talked about the people who walked through nature for like 20 minutes and the effect that had on their stress versus people who like walked through a city? And like the walking didn't make the difference. It was the time in nature.
Yeah, I think that was him.
Okay.
Yeah, we're probably going to plug Comfort Crisis and
Stolen Focus.
Stolen Focus again.
Yep.
Every other episode because they just, oh gosh, they blew our minds and really reframed how we thought. And then I don't have the stats for this in front of me, but I saw there was this kind of like outdoor play influencer, for lack of better words, that they were saying that it takes 40 minutes for kids to just set up their play.
Yes. I was going to bring up the book, The Last Child in the Woods by Richard, I think it's Louv. I read that book and it was a lot about like what children need for their brains to develop in nature. And that was a lot of it is like it takes like 40 minutes for them to like get started with unstructured play. And if they're only getting 4 to 7 minutes, their brains really aren't even getting the benefits of that outdoor play yet.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, we talk a lot about kids when we talk about this because this is like, you know, their major brain development is happening and like they need these like building blocks to like set them up for successful adult life. But if you are ever feeling like lost or like you don't really anxious, you don't really know who you are anymore, you feel like you've lost your inner child, you don't remember how to play, revert back to all of these things that we're saying like, oh, children need this. You need this. You're a human. You need these things too.
Every time I think about this stuff, I always think about like people are basically plants.
Yes.
We need sun and we need water.
Yeah.
We need food. So a plant needs soil, but we need food.
Yeah.
Like we're basically plants. And so if you've got water and you've got food, go get some sun.
Need sun. Yes. Yeah. Insert all of the grounding.
Yeah. The grounding is a fascinating deep dive. My husband and I started a deep dive on grounding because I'm like, this stuff is crazy because it's electrical currents.
Can you give us like just like the 3-minute very baseline version of like, this isn't just like, oh, connect with nature and like feel the ground.
Not woo-woo.
No, it's not. It does have to do with like electricity and
so
ions like, and take it away.
You have to understand how electricity works, which I do not understand very well how it works. Garrett is like a whiz.
I'm married to an electrician and I'm still convinced it's magic.
Yes. Like,
I don't know.
I don't know. You turn the switch and it turns on. That's all I know. Well, that's not all I know anymore, but so like the earth has electrical current and soil, rocks are conductors, and rubber is an insulator. And what is the soles of all of our shoes made out of? Rubber. So it insulates us from that electrical current. We are electrical beings. We've talked about this before. That's why we need minerals, because we conduct electricity. So you isolate us from the electrical current of the earth. Now you've disconnected us from an electrical source. Mm-hmm. So by removing the insulator,
the barrier.
Yeah, the barrier. Now you are getting the electrical current from the earth. And they've found that like it's healing. Like these people who have slow wound healing and stuff, or they're just not healing in general from things, like using conventional means like medications and surgeries and therapies and things like that, and they're just not getting better, they start grounding them and they heal like instantaneously. Not like snap a
weeks
finger.
And months versus years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they've had this wound that hasn't healed in 4 weeks. They ground them, and within 2 weeks it's healing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that's the elevator
baseline
pitch from somebody who does not really understand electricity very well. There you have it.
I love it. Yes. Yeah. So don't just get outside, take your shoes off.
Yeah, for real. Or put your hands in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can't take your shoes off for whatever reason. Like
yeah, gardening, literally therapeutic.
Sitting on the ground. This is why people care so much about like the materials that they wear too.
Yeah. I think we want to talk a little bit too about embracing 1,000 hours outside, even if you don't want to count hours. Because 1,000 hours, it's just kind of like, it's like 10,000 steps, right? It's like kind of just this number that we pulled out of the air that's like, we should try this. And
random goal.
Yeah. And that's totally
Not
fine.
Totally random,
if you're somebody who likes to track numbers and that like you love data and that's not going to be harmful to your psyche, then by all means, in fact, 1,000 hours outside is very well known for their trackers that they have. They have both an app, and then you can download these
printable
coloring pages.
Yeah,
they're so pretty. They do did you know they do contests like every year at the beginning of the year to see like which ones are going to be released? Like people make these that are part of the community.
That's really cool.
It is really cool. Totally free. You can just like download whatever one you want, or even every new year they have like a starter pack of like, here's your tracker, here's your activity sheet, here's your different activities for each month. So like you can get as into it or not as into it as you want. I'm not a number tracker. I want to be. In January I am. But I live a busy life, and it's the first thing that I'm just like, nope, not doing that. I think, you know, we've talked before about like, this may not be your season to track calories. This may not be your season to track, you know, steps or whatever. And it might not be your season to track hours either. I think it's more about embracing the spirit of it, of just like, how can we get more time outside? Or some people even, they have it broken down into how many hours do I need each day?
Yeah.
And if you look, you'd have to figure out what to Google. I guess probably like seasonal 1,000 hours outside calendar. And it actually, they have it broken down into whether you live in a hot climate or a cold climate. And it would be like, for us, we live in a cold climate. So it'd be like in January, if you can get like 1 hour a day. And then in July, if you can get 6 hours a day, it like evens out.
Right. So that way you're not breaking it down strictly by hours per day, but you're offsetting it so that way you're not freezing your tush off in January.
Right. 3 hours in January sounds like too much.
Yeah.
But you could probably get an hour in.
Right.
And just know that like people are doing this with all ages of kids.
Yep.
I see, so they have a Facebook page, and I highly recommend you get into this Facebook group because it'll show you people from like all ages, stages, areas. People live in cities and apartments. People live in the middle of nowhere and milk goats. Like it just, there's just such an array of like, just know that like you can do it.
So much diversity.
No matter.
And there's no right or wrong way to do it is the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And take it as inspiration and take what you need from it and then let the rest go. And they're a lovely group, and you can get all kinds of like suggestions about outdoor toys and like
Probably even clothing.
Tons of information about clothing brand, sunscreen, like all the things, all the questions you could have. But what I was starting to say is like a big trend in there is like, here's my 24-hour-old baby getting their first outdoor time. And I love that.
Yeah.
I know some people that might feel a little weird about it. I love it. It's so good for them, like against jaundice and stuff. It's probably good for mama's mental health. And some of them are even like, they're bundled up in their cute little snowsuits. Like it's not just like the summer babies. And I love that. It's embracing all cultures and all areas of life. And they really embrace there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad dress.
Right.
And on top of all that, as I'm like rambling, I'm like remembering things that I get excited about it. It is such a great mental shift from being a victim to your circumstances to like taking control of them.
Yeah.
Like, I think you can complain no matter where you're at. I could totally complain that like, it's so cold where I live. It's so snowy. We had a 2-week stretch where everything was just ice. Just ice. Like,
we would have one day of warm weather with rain, and then it would drop to the negative degrees and be ice.
It was quite frankly so dangerous. It was bad out.
Bad.
But you know what we did? We put on our yak tracks, we put on our snowshoes, and we went outside still.
Yep.
And it's like freeing yourself from just being a victim to your circumstances and being like, well, this is where I live, Pennsylvania, you know. It's like, nope, I live in Pennsylvania. It's beautiful. I'm going to like figure out how to make
Enjoy
peace with it. Yes.
Yeah. And I was going to, like, I always think about this whenever we talk about like babies and snow and things like that. I love, like, randomly Instagram will serve me the like Scandinavian cultures.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's where they put their babies to sleep.
Yeah, outside.
Yeah, and I even saw a video one time where it's like an hour before bed, they open all the windows in the bedroom, and then like the kids run in and jump in bed and they shut the windows, and I was like, that
sounds amazing.
Yes.
Is anybody else sick of breathing stale air all winter? Yeah, that sounds so good.
So it's like, this is a pretty modern invention that we like aren't cold.
Yes. Oh gosh, this could be a whole conversation too. It is.
So it's like, don't worry about your babies in the cold. They're supposed to be in the cold. Keep them warm. Like, I'm not saying freeze your baby, but
but freshness.
They'll be so fresh. But
learn how to do it well.
Don't be afraid to allow them to get some fresh air.
Yeah.
Even if it's cold.
Yes. And yourself too. You don't have to be perfectly toasty all of the time.
Yep.
It's funny for people who are kind of low key against cold plunging. We also are pretty pro like being uncomfortable.
Right.
And what an enigma we are.
We have lots of weird double standards, I guess.
We told you there'd be nuance. We are delivering you nuance.
I also never said I was against cold plunging. Just it's probably not for me right now.
I am.
I don't want to do it, but
yes.
I am personally against it.
I am against it for my body in my season. Yes. I truthfully, I think I could be a cold plunge girly someday. I could actually see that.
I don't know.
I'm a wee bit of a masochist sometimes, I think.
I have a hard time psyching myself up to do things that I know are going to hurt.
So this is just kind of our overview and our own personal ramblings and heartfelt feelings about Ginny Urich, and I feel like it's Urich. Now I'm really second guessing myself. If she listens to this, I'm going to be really embarrassed and also really happy. But it's just our big feelings about 1,000 Hours Outside and how much it's changed our personal lives and our personal, like, the way we approach. For me, it's the way I approach life in general.
Yeah.
And I know that feels a little extreme, but I really do believe that about, you know, embracing all seasons, embracing where you're at in life and not being a victim to your circumstances. So you're going to want to go, here's your step-by-step plan. You're going to want to go to Facebook and get on their group.
Yep.
That's probably where you're going to get the most information. They have a website. They have a really fun store on there that has, if you have kids to buy for or adults to buy for, like, look there first for gifts. I think they have such the funnest things.
I've bought Emily's kids
so
gifts
many
from
things.
there.
So good. And we still use them and they're amazing. You're going to want to go and get on their email page. You're going to want to get on any of your podcast players and find the 1000 Hours Outside podcast. It's amazing. It will probably change your life. She has tons of experts on from all fields. All fields. You're just gonna have to check it out. It's very cool. I think maybe my favorite ones to date have been from Teacher Tom. He's this like, you have to go check it out. He's really cool. And then also there's been a few tech experts on there talking about what exactly big tech or whatever is thinking when they're marketing things to your kids. And I think those are important conversations. So I think that's everything. Oh, she's also written several books at this point.
She has books.
And I think there's a book club where she like recommends books to read too. So get on your library Libby app, Hoopla, and find those and go ahead and binge them and then come back and report back and tell us what you learned.
Yes, we want to know what you're doing to get outside more.
Yeah, and I'm curious, is anybody actually tracking hours this year? Let us know. We're not.
Hey there, friends. Are you feeling stuck or overwhelmed on your health journey? Maybe you've got questions about digestion, supplements, or just how to take that next small step toward feeling better. Well, I've got something exciting just for you. Office Hours. Every Tuesday, I'm hosting 2 live video chat sessions where we can connect one-on-one. This is your chance to ask questions, get guidance, or simply chat about how to make progress on your health journey. Whether it's understanding your supplements, tackling digestion challenges, or figuring out how food and lifestyle can support you, I'm here to help. Now, here's the fun part. While the links to join Office Hours are available to everybody, my email subscribers get so much more. By joining my email list, you'll not only stay updated on Office Hours reminders, but also get access to exclusive tips, resources, and inspiration to help you feel your best. Head over to the show notes for this episode and sign up for my email list today. I can't wait to see you during Office Hours and help you take your next steps with confidence and clarity. Let's do this together.
All right, Kayla, what's good this week?
So this week, I am revisiting a beloved series, and I'm pretty sure it's a beloved of yours as well. The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer.
I was just thinking about these.
Yep. So I've already ripped through Cinder. I've partway through Scarlet. I forgot how great they were.
Yeah.
They're so good. So if you're interested in they're kind of like fractured fairy tales. So they're retellings of fairy tales, but from a sci-fi perspective.
Yeah.
The Cinder is about Cinderella, but
Obviously.
she's a cyborg.
Yeah.
And it gets better from there.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm much of a sci-fi person, but I really loved these.
Yes.
Really, really.
They're a young adult series, so
Yeah.
pretty easy to get into.
Yeah, and fairly clean. There's not a whole lot. I mean, there's love stories, but they're not spicy.
They're young adult. Yeah. They're really tame romance.
I'm gonna have to go back. This is gonna be my what's good in a few weeks.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
What about you, Emily?
What's good this week is pizza parties and letting go of perfectionism and ideals sometimes. I have always thrown birthday parties for my kids, and they were just family parties. We're not playing like Pin the Tail on the Donkey or anything, because I'm actually not super fun. I aspire to be, and I think I am, and then it turns out I'm not. Anyways, till we get our whole extended families together, aunts and uncles and everything, I have a house full of people, and I've always done what do you want me to make for your birthday dinner, and making all of these things. And I mean, I cook from scratch, everything's from scratch, and really great ingredients and all this stuff. And then I had my 4th child, and she was everything we needed and wanted, and she broke me in so many ways. And I let go of a lot of things. I think it started with asking my mom to make cupcakes instead of me also baking the cake and doing the things. And then I was doing everything homemade, and then my mom would bring cupcakes, and I was like, this is my compromise. And then I have my 5th child, and my 5th child tore me down to studs. And I've had to slowly build myself back up. And this is when we started. You may have a pizza party at our house, or you may have a non-food party at a skating rink, but you may not have both. And now we buy pizza, hallelujah, from the best pizza place local to us. If you are local to the Erie area, Waterford Pizza and More has the best pizza.
Yes. It's amazing.
The best pizza I've ever had. I will stand by that. So we buy pizza, and I say, hey, family, if you want to bring side dishes, You're welcome to, but you're not obligated to. And my compromise this year is that I made homemade cupcakes, and I'm really excited about it. And it gave me space to like actually make cupcakes and enjoy it instead of being like, oh, now I got to make a cake and I'm super stressed. So pizza parties, letting go of perfectionism, and just enjoying your child.
Those are great things.
Yeah, those are really good things. Thank you for listening to the Good Enough Wellness Podcast.
To learn more about my one-on-one packages, join my mailing list and follow me on Instagram at Kayla King Wellness.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Good Enough Wellness podcast feed wherever you listen to podcasts. You don't want to miss an episode.
Follow us on Instagram at Good Enough Wellness Podcast to learn about upcoming episodes and join our free Patreon to interact with the Good Enough community.
The Good Enough Wellness Podcast, because good enough can be good enough.
Well, that's good enough for me.
Me too.